Hey, welcome to Explore HVAC and Home Services podcast, where we uncover stories, strategies, and some secrets behind successful businesses. I'm your host, Pam Mashburn, and today we're joined by a special guest, Chad Faith, who's with Standard Supply here. Now, are you in Alabama, right? Or are you in Tennessee?
Actually, no, our headquarters is in the Dallas, Texas area or Irving,
Okay.
Texas. And so we're all over the state of Texas, Oklahoma. We've now added Arizona, Nevada. And so basically we're expanding, but we're really
Wow.
based primarily out of the Dallas area.
Now, are you in Dallas?
I am actually in Wiley, Texas, just east of Dallas.
Oh, I don't know why I thought you were closer than that. Okay. I
Yeah,
just had it in my mind that you were in Alabama. I think it's because I'm in Alabama and I met you in Alabama. So that's
that's
probably
right.
why.
Yeah, we were hanging out up there.
I
That's
know.
right.
I know. It was great. So, okay. Yeah. So just kind of introduce yourself and tell us, how you got involved in the HVAC world.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, my name is Chad Faith, and gosh, HVAC world. Well, I graduated high school. I grew up in New Mexico, Southeast New Mexico. Graduated high school, went into college. My dad had a deal with me that as long as I was in college, I could live at the house for free. And I was just not mature enough for that. In college, they don't take roll. They don't care if you're there or not. And when I figured that out, I just decided I didn't need to go to class. So I didn't
Right.
do very well. And I moved out, moved to Texas as soon as I could. And that's, you're going to have to get a job at that point, right? Not living at home anymore. Got to find a way to make money. And that's how I stumbled into the air conditioning world. Actually, God led me to it, is really what happened there. So, funny enough, I entered the air conditioning industry as an outbound caller. That's really how I started.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a tough gig.
Yeah, it was. It was interesting. Back then we had newspapers and that's how you found your job. So I was sitting in a Pizza Hut and found an article about outbound calling for air conditioning and heating. Went in, interviewed, got that job. Immediately wanted to be out in the field. I was great at it. It was really cool and learned a lot. And also back then, this is going to affect those youngsters today, but we were calling out of the yellow page phone book, and that was
Oh my
like
gosh.
the main advertising avenue for HVAC and all trades really in that time period.
So we've said a couple of things that have dated you. Pizza Hut, newspapers, and yellow pages. I'm with you though. I'm with you,
Yeah,
Chad. I
yeah,
remember those days.
yeah.
So keep going. Keep going. Tell us more.
Yeah, just outbound calling was doing really good with that. I would notice the texts kind of coming and going, and man, I really want to do that. Eventually got moved into a dispatch role. So now I was kind of dealing with connecting the technicians to the homeowners and talking to the homeowners. And again, I grew up in a small Southeast New Mexican town where in the summers I was baling hay, rebuilding fences and barns and stuff. I wanted to be outside.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
my dad worked at a local electric co-op. So I'd see him pull up as I was growing up in his work truck, and he would get out with that tool pouch on the side with a bunch of tools and that leather
Every
bag.
boy's dream. Yep.
Yeah, just really
Yes.
wanted to do that. And so that's what led to, eventually becoming a helper on an install crew
Yeah.
and learned that. And then eventually became the head installer and then became a service tech. And, like most contractors out there, you get really good at being a technician. And then you go take this little test and suddenly, hey, you can be a business owner now.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, so that's
So then you did have your own business, right?
I've scaled and sold 3 companies over a 31-year period.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so there's a lot for us to explore here. But now you're working with Standard Supply. What do you do with them?
So my title here is Director of Dealer Development, and, man, gosh, what do I do? I travel the footprint of this company, and I get to work with contractors of all sizes, $50,000 startups. One of our TMs and I are working with an $80 million company right now,
Wow.
and just helping them solve problems, helping them to, really dive in and fix issues in their business. It's not often that an $80 million company comes to you and is humble enough to say, "Hey, I need some help with some things." But when it does happen, it's really cool to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And so Standard Supply literally has a goal of being a true partner to our dealers, our customers.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is, I think back about my first business and the second business, and even in that third business, I really didn't have a distributor partner that would bring to me mentoring and coaching at a business level and absolutely no cost at all to the dealer.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I
Standard
didn't.
is investing in that.
But it's so smart, isn't it? I
Mhm.
mean, it is that long view of really helping that it because when that business grows, their revenue grows, Standard Supplies revenue grows, right? I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Exactly. That's exactly what our hope is. And you know, the cool thing in my company's my third business, I had a set of core values. I carry this little card around with me still. I don't know if you
Ooh,
can
I
see.
love that.
That's the core values, right? And so,
Uh-huh. What okay, it
I don't know
says, "Don't decide for others, be coachable, improve every day, follow through on commitments, be a team player, put your name on it."
yeah,
Love that.
and it's
Put
metal.
your name on it. That's
And
that
so,
yeah.
well, when I came to work here at Standard, when actually remember I was interviewing our president, Todd Day, gave me a little card, and we spent the first hour of our discussion talking about core values. The core values of Standard Supply are three pillars, and the first pillar is God and family and career. That's the first pillar.
Mhm.
Second pillar is make it fun. And then the third pillar is set the standard by delivering solutions. And
Wow.
when he said those things to me in that interview, I immediately knew that this was where I needed to be.
Wait, I'm writing it down. Set standards by
Yeah, so it's
providing solutions? Is
set the
that what the last one?
standard. Yeah, set the standard by providing solutions.
By providing solutions.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you guys run on EOS, an
I'm not
entrepreneurial operating system? Because they're
well,
really big on core values. I wondered if that's what y'all ran.
no, no. Oh, I know what you're talking about. No, no, not at all. No,
Yeah.
it's inherent to the company. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite stories that Todd Day talks about is whenever so the owner of the company is Bill Shaw,
Okay.
and his son Spencer Shaw is now the CEO and owner of the company. Also, Todd Day is now the president. But when Todd was, I believe it was a TM at the time, his wife was expecting their firstborn, I believe, and she had an appointment to have like a sonogram and stuff done.
Uh-huh.
And a dealer called Todd Day and said, "Hey, man, I got to have this order. You got to help me right now." And of course, Todd did what he did to serve that customer, and he missed the sonogram deal.
Mm,
And he was talking to Bill about that event, and Bill set him down in his office. He goes, "Have a seat." And he turned around and he called Todd's wife on speakerphone,
yeah.
and he apologized to her. And he
Wow.
said, "Our core values are God, family, and then career. He will not miss another single appointment."
Oh, that gives me
And
goosebumps. That's really good.
right. And so,
Yes. That's the way
as a
it should be,
person,
right?
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's what you want. And you don't find that in companies very often. And that's one of the big things that I think if a young business owner is beginning now and they've got that question, like, what should I start with? Start with a
Mhm.
culture, build
Uh,
something
Amen.
that
Mhm.
has a foundation to it that everyone can operate with and respect as they kind of move forward in the business with you. And if you start with that, man, it takes care of so many of the problems. It took us, we were 10 years into our third business before this came a thing or became, something that we
Yeah.
wanted to put into place. And once we had the core values in place, now I didn't have to micromanage people. They had a little set of rules in their pocket. We have coffee cups with it. It was on the back of our shirts. We lived it. And so when I started looking at coming over to Standard Supply, and Todd told me that story about, Bill getting on to him and driving it by the core values, and then he shared with me the core values of the company. It was a no brainer for me. This is not just about making money. It's not a
Right.
business built on making money. Standard Supply is a business on creating relationships, and everything else takes care of itself after that.
Yeah, this will date myself, but when I was young in my career, I met Zig Ziglar. I don't know if how to influence
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
And one of the things that has really stuck with me that he said is, if you help enough people get what they want, you will eventually get what you want. And
that's
it's all about making sure that you're helping other people. And
that's it.
you will get profits and other stuff if you do that.
Mhm.
But the culture, if you have great culture, you will have great people. Like, we've been in business for 20 years and we still have the first employee that I hired 14 years ago.
Wow.
And I really pride myself on the fact that we have people here that have been here 10 years, 11 years.
Yeah.
And if you create the right culture and make sure that these other things that you're talking about, family, career, making it fun, if you do those things, they
Mhm.
won't want to leave. And
Exactly.
especially because work is hard, you
Yeah.
know? There's a
That's right.
reason we pay people. It's hard.
That's right.
So, um, if you've got those things, it makes it a little bit easier, I think.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I absolutely love the core values that you guys just talked about or that you just talked about.
Mhm.
Um, so how long have you been with Standard Supply?
I've just been here for about a year now.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So were they doing the work that you're doing? Have they been doing that for a while, or is this something like a new initiative that they're doing?
Well, they had began to create the position of dealer development,
Uh-huh.
and an individual was here before me, in this place, and he had a medical event that pulled him away from it. And so I kinda had to, um, a medical retirement, basically.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
that's
that's
unfortunate, but
yeah,
it
yeah.
happens. Yeah.
I know, yeah, and
If we all live long enough, it's gonna happen to all of us, I'm sure.
yeah, 100%. So that
So,
the position was created and it was kind of already, in flux
uh-huh.
basically. And then, God led me to this one, and it was just like, you need to, you need to listen. I tell the story a lot that, oftentimes we think that God speaks to us in thunder, and most important things that come from God are often in sprinkles, and you got to be listening for it. And so that's kind of what led me to this position, I believe, was, the sprinkles that he puts out there for us.
Well, the fact that you are uniquely qualified to be able to help
Mhm.
other business owners, it's
Yes.
hard. We just did a little segment on that. I One of the things I love about working with HVAC business owners is they're all about the same size as my company.
Mhm.
Ones that I work, we're like a $4 million company,
Mhm.
and so when I'm talking to them, I can talk about KPI. I may not be in the HVAC business, but I'm in business. And I
Mhm.
understand like, ooh, you got to make payroll. I understand cash flow. I understand building authority. I understand just getting paid last, all of those things. And when you're not a business owner, you ask different questions. But when you're a
Mhm.
business owner or have been a business owner, you're going to be able to you relate in a whole different way with
Yeah,
those guys, you
totally.
know?
Yeah.
Um, what what would you say, like, how many businesses do you help right now? Like, do you have, like
Golly. Oh, hundreds,
really?
literally. Oh my gosh. Yeah, hundreds, absolutely hundreds of them. Um, I mean, we've got like 40 storefronts,
Wow.
through Oklahoma and Texas. And, I mentioned Arizona. And so what I do is I'll schedule time where I'll go into those markets, meet with the regional sales managers or the vice presidents in that area,
Yeah.
get with the sales team. They'll set up meetings. And, every time I do that, I'll meet 4 or 5 or 6 different dealers, and they always get my phone number,
Uh-huh.
which I always like to say I've had that number since the iPhone was invented, because it's true. When the iPhone came out, I went and got an iPhone. They gave me that phone number. I've had it ever since. So you get my phone number, and we meet. We talk about the pains they have. I kind of, do whatever I can to help them, give them some information, and then let them know, hey, call me. We can Zoom. We can, you call me with questions. I will answer. If I'm in a meeting, I'll call you back or
I love
text. And
that.
so that's really what my days are filled with, is just being an added support, a scaffolding, right, for
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
business owners and even just some of their employees, right? I've got technicians that call me. Hey, I was
Really?
in your class and you taught this and that. What should I do in this situation? Yeah, I'll answer them. I Everything I have great in my life is because of this industry, and I am determined to give back because of that. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I know. I love your passion for that. So tell
Yeah.
me, what's the number one thing that you see over and over, like, that are pain points for an HVAC business owner?
Yeah. So I think about this a lot. Most air conditioning and heating business owners, you start off as an apprentice or what have you, right? You become a technician. and you get really good at it. And then you go and you take this test and they give you this license. Now all of a sudden, hey, I can be a business person. And in that test, there's no business acumen tested at all in that, right?
Right.
And so what happens is they get really great at being a tech. They open their company and they don't realize that they're now an apprentice in business. So they don't
Mm,
really learn those things like, setting a margin, what's proper pricing, or, the core value piece, the building a culture in your business to attract people. What does it take to do that?
right.
What I find is all too often these business owners you hear it, it's cliche in the industry is you're working in the business, not on it kind of thing. But
Uh-huh.
that is absolute truth. And that's
It
kind of,
is.
yeah, I like to get in there with them and show them that
Mhm.
kind of, I want to take you from being reactionary, right? And to being an enhanced, instead of a seasonally reactive business, I want to be a seasonally enhanced business by
Ooh,
teaching
I
you
love that.
to operate in business as a business person. And the more I work with individuals and the more they become successful with that, I keep hearing these, oh my gosh, these light bulb moments where they're, this really worked. And I'm like, I know. Wish somebody would have told me this in my first business. It would have been much different,
I know.
earlier on.
So what did you say? Go from seasonally reactive to
Seasonally enhanced.
enhanced.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
like that.
exactly what I want to teach businesses to do. The seasonally reactive owner, when shoulder season hits, he's
Mhm.
worried about payroll. He's cutting his own pay. He's trying to figure out how to do stuff.
Yeah.
And that was me for many, many, many years. And then when we became a seasonally enhanced business, I couldn't wait for shoulder season. I was excited about it. October would settle in. And what that meant was we were coming off that enhancement and hitting our baseline. And now I could pull my managers in and we could start planning for the next year.
Right.
We could forecast. I had
Right.
time to work with them at that point. So yeah, it's
Well,
important.
and you were prepared financially within the business to deal with
Correct.
that.
That's right.
Yeah, I think, I heard somebody say, um it's always gonna be chaos. Like, your business is always gonna have chaos, and you can get anxious about that, or you can get experienced and
Hmm.
learn how to deal with it so that
Yeah.
you don't have the anxiousness. Just like I've told people even in sales, you have these, "Oh, it's so great, I'm selling so much, oh, no, nobody's buying, nobody's buying. Oh, I'm having these highs." And I said, "When you get more experience, it starts becoming more like this." You don't
Yeah.
have those highs and lows anymore because you know what to expect and you know how to plan for all of those things. But I
That's right.
love that seasonally reactive and seasonally enhanced piece and being an apprentice in business.
Yeah.
Um, because what made them really good is probably going to hurt them a little bit when they're running their business. Because I mean, I find myself even wanting to get into the weeds instead of running the business, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's whenever you have to learn variables that are outside of your control. Gotta let those go. You gotta let them go. You can't. You only focus on the variables within your control.
We had a guy, Tony from All Star Heating, and Cooling on here on the podcast not too long ago, and he said something really great. We were talking about delegating, delegating to elevate. And I said, how do you let go when you know that person's not going to do as good a job as you? And he said on his board, he wrote down 70% of two people is greater than 100% from me. And he said, and I thought, yeah, that's great,
Yeah.
and what it did is it elevated him to really run the business and to think. I think that's the other part that's hard for a business owner. They're so busy, they don't have time to think,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Because they're
And
working in it, not on it.
right, exactly.
Hmm.
So, what are some other things that you see that is common amongst these folks that you're counseling and mentoring?
Yeah, there a lot of them have pretty big mistakes in their profit loss statements. So they have inflated gross profits that really aren't what they think they are because of the way that it's lined out. And again, this is just being an apprentice in business, right? Not understanding that above the gross profit line, you should have a direct labor area. That's one of the biggest things that I see. I think I've looked at probably 30 or 40 profit loss statements in the last year, and I would say 93% of them
Hmm.
direct labor in the wrong place. So they're tootling along thinking, hey, we're making 53% gross profit. I come in and look at their P&Ls and move that stuff around and go, no, you're making 38%. And they go, oh my gosh. Right, and that's why you've at the end of each of those quarters or year, you're looking back going, "Where'd all the money go?"
Where'd
Because
all the
it's
money go? Yeah.
exactly right. You just not knowing where to put it. Departmentalization in your
Uh-huh.
profit loss, I think, is a very important thing.
Wait,
I
what
wish
did you
that I
call it? Departmental wait, what did you call that?
departmentalization. So whenever you take a profit loss statement and departmentalize it,
Uh-huh.
that gives you great control of your business. And I wish that I would have known that early on. And here's
What do
what I
you
mean
mean
by
by
that.
that? I don't know that I've heard that term before. What do you mean
Yeah. So
departmentalization?
if I'll just kind of take you back to my business, basically. So we did commercial and residential
Uh-huh.
and things like that. So I would have a class. I would say residential, and then I would have install,
Yeah.
service, maintenance, IAQ, liability section would have been warranty, right? Or callback
Uh-huh.
area. So we could test the liability piece to that. And then maybe service sales. And then below that was commercial,
Mhm.
install, maintenance, all the same things, right?
Right, I get it.
So I could
So
look at
then
my
you can really see what's profitable and not profitable.
exactly.
Yeah.
That and that's what you need as you start scaling that business. I tell people all the time, it's like the Titanic, right? You turn the helm and it takes a long time for the boat to turn. But if you had a bunch of little helms,
Mhm.
you could really see, oh, that one's the problem. So I'm going to focus on this right now, my service department, right?
Yes.
Install's doing great, maintenance is doing great. And then as you start filling in those seats in your organization chart and handing those responsibilities over, that trust, 70%
Mhm.
of two people is better than 100% of one. You start handing those responsibilities over, they can then see their department very clearly, and it gives them, some freedom to manage.
Right. I mean, it really empowers them with good numbers to make decisions. Yeah, I
Mhm.
love working with business owners, especially HVAC business owners that can tell me, like, this is what our average is, this is what our margins are, this is where we need to focus. And then we can measure because I'm really big. I don't know if you knew I was an engineer. I have a couple of engineering degrees and I used to work in
Do you really?
manufacturing. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I am really into data. 'Cause
That's
when I
awesome.
can see what gets measured gets
Yeah.
results, right? And if I don't know where you were, I don't know if I'll say, "Okay, one of the things we measure is how many new customers did you get?" "Okay, well,
Yeah.
how much is a customer worth to you?" And then I know, like, we spent this amount on a lead generation. If we
Mhm.
can keep them in the pipeline, what's their lifetime value? Was it worth spending $120 or $80 a lead or whatever it was to get them?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if I can make, $6,000 in a year off of those guys or whatever it is, we'll come up with different numbers. But
Yeah, it gives you metrics you can operate
yeah, if
by.
I've got metrics, I can tell you it because a lot of times with marketing, it's really about an equation. I spend this,
Yeah.
I do
Mhm.
this, and it should result in this, which is worth what? And a lot of people are like, I don't know. And then
Yeah.
they dig into their reports and they'll find out. So,
Yeah.
but if you don't have it departmentalized, I'm gonna start telling people about that. I love that.
Oh,
If they
yeah.
don't have it departmentalized, they don't know what their margins are.
You have no clue.
So, yeah, so then you go, I know, that is a really great thing. And the earlier you can do that so that you can
Mhm.
track year over year, quarter
Yes.
over quarter,
Yep. And then you
this,
become enhanced. October hits, you're excited
yes,
because now you can forecast based on all those past metrics that you were gathering. And that tells you, you take those past metrics, you apply your goal, your growth
yes,
goal, I want to grow by this much in these departments. It gives you the blueprint. It's
yeah.
easy at that point.
So when you do this work with them, do y'all end up spending time talking about pricing and labor
Absolutely.
costs?
Absolutely.
Does it usually change significantly in general once you look
What
at
do you mean?
that? Like, when
Oh,
people really see those numbers, do they go, "Oh, I may not be pricing this right," and then do
oh,
y'all work on
100%. Yes, absolutely. In my years of business, I tell contractors, in fact, you asked that question. I just got a text from a contractor a minute ago. What should my labor percentage be on this particular job? Things like that. So I probably have 3 to 500 spreadsheets that either I stole as I went along in business or some of them I wrote, to figure those things out. And so absolutely, I'll set with a contractor. We'll figure out what they should be charging per hour in their flat rate systems. And they look at
Mhm.
it, gosh, that's like 3 times what I'm charging. And yeah, I know that's why we got to get you there. And so they immediately engage into that.
Yeah. It's interesting when, we were at that training where we met, there was, I was sitting at lunch with a couple of owners, and they were saying, um, how a lot of their techs feel like they're taking advantage of customers because of the
Mm.
pricing.
Mhm. Yep.
because and so we were talking about like sometimes you've got to have some transparency with your folks for them to understand. Like, yeah, I got this and it was, X percentage of cost from the distributor, but I'm having to pay for marketing and the call center and the administration and the insurance and so they don't think about all those overhead costs that have to
Mhm.
be put in, which a lot of times can cost more than the unit itself.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. We used to do a dollar bill thing. It was we get a giant dollar bill printed, and
Yeah.
on the back of that dollar, I had it divided out, right, in what the labor cost, what the materials, and I would cut that thing up with my team. And
Ooh,
at
I
the
love
end of
that.
it, you got this tiny little thing right here, and you're like, so you think you see this big dollar of the install that we're doing, but at the end of it, this is really what might be left, and we still have to talk about, the functions of EBITDA. There may be some other stuff there, and that really opens their eyes. But again, I go back to the core values. Number one core values: don't decide for others, right? So in our sales process, we just gave all the options and we let the customer choose. And that took away some of that fear that our techs and our salespeople had. I had to do that myself. I was so afraid. There was a time where in my third business, primarily what we sold was just low sear, single stage stuff. And I never gave any other options. It was like 99% of our business. By the time we had grown and put some repeatable sales processes and our core values, when I sold that company, we were 84% inverter.
Wow.
And not a high pressure sell at all. It was, here's everything we can do for you. Here's a
Right.
repeatable process. What do you want us to do for you? And the customer would choose that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, well, this is off the subject a little bit, but I was just talking to one of my clients and she was talking about um, they've started offering these special financing deals. And because they had 0% on the higher priced units,
Mhm.
they were selling a ton more of those. And I was like, wow, that's great and that was not something they were expecting.
Yep.
But because they gave the clients choices, it turned out to be a great decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Empower your customer. Absolutely. It's what we're there for. I'm not
Well,
there
and
to
we're
take.
all used to us as customers, we're all used to that, right? There are so many choices out there. I mean, you go to a fast food restaurant and you're like, "Oh my gosh, so many choices. I'll
Yeah.
take, meal plan number 16." You
Hmm.
know? So
Yep.
we're used to that. So when we don't have a choice, we get a little suspicious.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's right.
So, I'm looking at my questions. So I'm taking just a second
Yeah.
because I
What?
totally didn't look at them. We've just been having such a great conversation. I'm like,
Yes. It's cool. Yeah.
I know. I
Well, you
just
said that you have engineering in your background too. I wanted to
yeah.
say that after I sold my second business, I got out of business and I went to college 6 straight years
Oh,
and I taught engineering. So,
really?
yeah,
Where
that's why
at?
I'm like, I taught it through the University of Texas.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it
That's
was
a
UT
great school.
it was just intro. Oh, it's awesome. It was intro to engineering class. It was through Plano Senior High School, for seniors that were already in calculus, right? They had to
Uh-huh.
have an engineering track. And it was great, man. I was never going to be back in the industry after that second business. We just kind of accidentally fell into this one. Turned out to be our biggest best deal, but I don't know. You said that, and I just
I know,
immediately.
that's really cool. Yeah, I went to Georgia Tech in
Oh,
Atlanta.
okay,
I'm from
nice.
Georgia. And
Yeah.
then when I worked for Cummins Engine Company, we make diesel engines.
Yep.
Um, I went and got my master's at Purdue.
Oh,
And now I'm marketing. Isn't that funny?
yeah. Well, I
But
mean, I'm a dealer development guy in air conditioning and heating, right?
I
Yeah.
love that in America we can do all kinds of different things. But
Isn't that
I think
cool?
the what makes me I have marketing in my blood from my family. They're big in that in advertising and marketing. But I think the difference is, it used to be you would think of marketing and advertising as being something creative. And it
Mhm.
is. And it is. But really, if you're talking about lead generation and results, which is what digital marketing has really turned into,
Mhm.
it's looking at what is that equation? What is the formula? You have to understand the algorithms, that Google has. And so it's a whole different game than it was 40 years ago. And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, I think the game is about to change a lot with AI
Oh, yeah.
because
Mhm.
I mean, people are gonna ask AI, but if you wanna win the game, I think you've gotta do a lot more traditional marketing than you did in the last, say, 5 years. And,
Yep.
we are we help people with traditional marketing as well, because I believe that your ultimate goal is that somebody doesn't go to Google except to find a phone number.
Yeah.
And because they already know who they want to call and it's you. So I'm all
Mhm.
about being known before needed. So, hey, I'm going off script again. What do you tell people
Yeah,
about
that's cool.
marketing? I'm curious because
No,
that's got to
I
be a
love this.
discussion.
Yeah, I love this because it is a conversation constantly. I told you that I got started as kind of an outbound caller in Yellow Page phone book, right?
Yeah.
So I watched Yellow Pages and when I opened my first business. That was in Lubbock, Texas, and we had two Yellow Page phone books. It was Southwest Bell and Feist, and you had to.
Oh,
That's how you advertised then, right?
yeah.
You were just going to be that
Oh,
local.
you could not advertise in Yellow Pages. Like
You had
that
to.
was
Yeah,
where you had to be.
yeah, and I was double pages. I did double full pages in both books, and it was like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, this is a lot of money, right, at the time. And I
Hmm.
watched Yellow Pages die to Google, right? That became
Right.
the new thing now. And then my conversations lately have been, we're not going to see Google die because Google is Meta. It's
Yeah. It's not going away.
it's not going away. But what we're
Mm-mm.
going to see is those traditional, what we know now as traditional advertising avenues, those are going to stop. You're going to see it change now with AI, with you
Right.
know all the different advertising that's happening now. And I've got a young guy that I've worked with now here for 3 years. Started working with him. He was 26. He's 29 now. He's doing $4 million, and he's here in this area. And he called me the other day. He goes, man, I'm starting to show up more and more on like Chat GPT and Claude and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And you need to continue to drive that.
Right.
Right. So that's one conversation. Another conversation that I tell these youngsters or these business owners all the time that I wished I would have figured out early on. There's two avenues in advertising, right?
Hmm.
In my mind, it's branding, your brand awareness advertising avenue, and then you've
Right.
got your demand, right? And what made us successful in the advertising wing was whenever I figured out that what it was demand became I was out actually on our boat at Lake Ray Roberts, and I don't know if you fished in a lake on a boat where white bass, they call them sand bass, they come up to the water's top and they start eating at the water's top, and
Okay.
it looks like a boil. You call it the boil. You're looking for the boil. And I
Okay.
would take my employees out there and their kids would be fishing, and I remember watching these kids fish and they were just catching. As soon as the hook hit the water, boom, there was a fish on. And then it just stopped. And when it stops, it stops. There's nothing you can do. You're just catching a
Right.
wet hook. And I literally sat down that day watching this happen and I went, "Oh my gosh, that's the demand. I have to use it that way." So what I did was I separated my budget and I did about 30% of my total budget in branding and said, "We're
Hmm.
never turning that off. We're
Right.
slinging that, and we're going
Hmm.
to 70% of our budget will be on demand, and we're going to start forecasting for that demand. And it's important that you have a great advertising partner with you on that, so they've got those campaigns ready to fire." And
Right.
once we started doing that, why it was like we had figured it out. It was
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Well, what have seen a lot lately is that people are wanting to spend money on demand
Mhm.
and not on branding. And so what is happening over time, because they're not investing in their branding and the things that don't bring you a lead per se, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yep.
a direct lead, because they've neglected that. When it's time for the demand, and the problem is people have forgotten them and they pick the person that has the branding.
Yeah.
And so that is that. So if you don't have a good balance of that, and we've talked to people and we're like, yeah, we can put you out on Google, LSA, or PPC all day long, but if a customer doesn't know your brand, they will not pick you.
That's right.
So, so that's when we have to talk about, okay, I know this may feel like you're not getting leads. This
Mhm.
is building that foundation so that when we turn your Google on, you're going to be able to be found and picked. And so it's a
Absolutely.
really it's a hard concept for people because they're like, "Oh, I just spend money on Google." And Google won't even take your money because nobody picks you.
Oh, such a mistake. And the thing is, think about this agentic AI, right?
Yes.
When
Mhm.
it goes out and looks, if you're a company that's only spending in the demand and you're not supporting the foundation of your
Uh-huh.
brand, it's going to overlook you. You're not going to be there.
Right.
You have hit on a big issue with a
Right.
lot of the smaller guys. Yeah, 100%. Right.
And even some of the bigger guys.
Yeah.
Even some of the bigger guys, we've seen it, where they're like, "Oh, well, we just throw $10,000 a month at Google," and they're not spending money on, yeah, I mean, mailers, I know everybody
Mhm.
thinks mailers are old school. Guess what? Nobody's doing mailers, and the guy that does do the mailer, all of a sudden, he stands out from the noise. And
Yeah.
so,
Mhm.
they're expensive. They can be expensive. But in certain instances, especially if you're growing your area or you're growing a service, or there's a lot of inexpensive ways to do it, which is traditional.
Yeah.
And they go, but nobody called the phone number that was on the postcard. But they see a
Well,
general lift, right? Because people still go back to Google, but they saw your postcard, they saw your sign in the yard, they saw your van, they
yeah.
saw you on social media, and when they go to Google, they pick you. So you have to look at more than just how many clicks did I get or how many calls on that one tracking number. You've got to look at, like, a lot of times I'll just say, how was business? Did you hit goal?
Yeah.
How many, like, we can look at click through rate all the time, but in the end of the day, if you didn't get results,
Mhm.
that's all that matters, right? Do we increase revenue? Like, I
Yep.
can't control your profit numbers because that's what Chad Faith is here to do. But I can help increase your revenue by getting you some more leads.
Yeah.
So,
You hit on something that is real important too with the mailers. We figured this out also, right? We would send out the mailers, but there's a side of that that we were very targeted when we did that. So we sent the mailing, and the biggest piece is the outbound calling behind it. You don't just hit
yes.
them in the mail, you got to call them about it too.
Mhm.
I said this to a room of contractors recently. There's probably 40 people in the room, and they were talking about the cost per click, right? And $300 here and $300 there. And I said, "How much do
Oh,
you
wow.
pay an outbound caller by the hour?"
Uh-huh.
They kind of got quiet, and we did the math real fast. And I said, "Okay,
Yeah.
$300 clip for one click, right? To try to get that
Mhm.
customer. That's 2.5 days of an outbound caller. That one click, that revenue
Right.
for that, you could pay for 2.5 days for an outbound caller that's spreading that brand out there and touch
Yes.
basing on tune-ups or that mailer or whatever. So that's a very overlooked, very inexpensive way to get your name out there.
So, are you guys doing outbound callers with, for new customers or with current customers?
Yes.
Yes, both.
Yeah.
Have you
So
seen over the years that there's less people answering the calls?
there are, right, because of mobile, devices the way they are now, and you can mark, you can block numbers and what have you. So
Right.
sure, absolutely. But there's also still an avenue for that. And obviously, like this time of the year, it's spring. So I say whenever we were in business, we're starting to gear up for our maintenance
We can
plans.
call it we. I'm saying we too. We're in
Yeah,
partners with those
there we
guys.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're calling our warm customers, our
Yeah.
hot customers, the ones that we already have in our pipeline. They're
Right.
expecting a call, things like that. But absolutely, if we did a big install in a neighborhood, we may go and put the flyers out and kind of talk to the neighbors. Hey, if you
Yep.
pick up with
Clover
us,
leaf it. Yep.
right? But we'll also have that happy check because you can get customer information off of your county assessment database. You can get the
Mhm.
information, call them up and just say, "Hey, we didn't leave a mess in your yard too, did we? And, we just want to make sure that you know that we're there." And if we
Right.
did, and you'd be so surprised how many people are just thankful that you called them and, "Hey, well, I got you on the phone, because we were in the neighborhood, maybe we could do a special tune up or whatever." We
Yeah.
would need as a management group to figure out what it was we were going to
What the
do.
promo is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Cause we want to be very targeted with it. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. I know we're using all the different tricks, we're doing text messaging. I mean,
Mhm.
here's the thing, we're in a noisy world.
Yes,
And
we are.
so you've got to hit on a lot of different ways. I'm finding Facebook is going to become, or not Facebook, but social media, I should say,
Mhm.
is for branding awareness is a really top place because where is everybody? They're on these things.
Yep.
So
That's right.
um, let's go back to just regular stuff. I'm done talking about marketing. Maybe talk about it all day long, but I want to talk a little bit about the supplier relationship with
Mhm.
the contractors. What are some of the mistakes that you see? I hear stuff on both sides of it. What are
Yep.
some of the mistakes when an HVAC owner is working with a supplier? What are some things that could help that relationship?
Yeah, I think well, you said relationship, right? And I think that's the thing. The biggest mistake that's made is it's not approached at a relationship level.
More of a
It's
vendor when they treat it like a
pricing
vendor?
them at the best price possible, price. And what
Yeah,
happens is, I even went through that also as a contractor, and I might go through 3 or 4 different, relationships because I got a better price over here. I got it for $5 better over here. But what support structure did you lose by moving that, right?
right,
And
right.
so it came down to the top 3 things I would say when a TM walked in my door. They would always come in, "Hey, Chad, we would love to do business with you." I go, "Great. Here it is. Support, training for my team, price." If
Mm,
all you're doing is walking in with that bottom one, you don't have these, then I'm gonna pick on the lowest one. But if
right.
you give me a huge amount of support and you'll help me train my people,
Yep.
guess what? I understand paying a little bit extra for the relationship here because that's what I grew into and matured into the understanding that it is a relationship. I need
Mhm.
that partnership for it to work.
Yeah, no, I think that's so because otherwise you just become a commodity, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And you're just ordering stuff out of a catalog or, they're not
Mhm.
catalogs, but online. And it's just the support. And it sounds like that's one of the reasons why Standard Supply is growing
Yep.
because y'all are giving that support, that you guys are giving that relationship and the training. It sounds like there's a lot of training, not just technical, but
Tons.
also business
Yeah.
training. I love that.
That's it.
So do you do classes or do you mostly work one-on-one with these guys?
Do classes. Yeah, I teach a repeatable sales process that we used in our business, and at
Yeah.
the end of that class, I will. I send it to the TMs because I want the TMs to go then and work with their contractors. They could put the logos in there for them. They can help them develop it into something that can be used in their business.
Yeah.
I say that all the time.
Kind of
There's a
white labeled stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's a formula to it, and it's the formula of scalability is culture
Mhm.
plus repeatable
Wait,
processes
hold on. Culture, what was the second one?
plus repeatable processes
Okay.
equals scalability.
Mm,
You got to have the culture first so that the people who are working in your organization buy into it. They have to believe. And I mean, not core values are just, painted on your wall in the entryway.
right.
It's got to be lived. Like you got to talk about it every day. You got to give your employees permission to call you out if you're doing something against those values, right?
Right.
Culture, build the culture, then get your repeatable processes. And I mean, repeatable sales process, the way we answered the phone, our CSRs knew how to answer the phone with different kinds of calls, right? Uh, uh, a brand, I used to call it the golden egg, and that would be a customer who's never done business with us before.
Uh-huh.
They're calling us. You've got 20 seconds to make a good impression and capture that. So you're going to answer that call differently than you do when Miss Johnson calls and she's been a customer for 15 years. You're still going to love on Miss Johnson, right? But that call is going to be different. You already know her. You already got the data. You're looking at it on the screen. You're going to have more of a family conversation with her. That
Right.
golden egg, you got to answer the phone. So we
It's a
literally
it's
have
a sale it's a sales, I want your business conversation, right?
absolutely. We had
Yeah.
repeatable process for everything. Every different kind of call, service calls, maintenance, installs, sales. We wrote it all down. You need to have it repeatable to where you can, somebody leaves, you can plug someone else in and they can go right into that process.
Well, and the nice thing about repeatable is if somebody leaves, like
Mhm.
for a medical emergency, or they go on vacation, or they have a child, or they just find another job,
Yeah.
you can find someone else and train them, which leads me into workforce development and finding good people. I'm
Mhm.
certain that you hear this a lot, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for people on this? Finding
Social
good
media.
people,
Yeah.
social media.
That's how we found two of the best techs that we ever hired.
Uh-huh.
Um, was we realized we spent so much money on, the employment sites. I don't know if we can say the names or whatever, but
We can call it. They're not listening.
yeah,
Indeed, all the
Indeed,
stuff,
all those,
right?
right? We spent a
Yeah,
ton of money, right?
and a ton of time because there's so many people and bots and whatever that
Yeah.
apply.
Yeah. What I had a big realization of was the text that I was trying to get, they're not
Mhm.
on Indeed. They're happy. I want the superstars. I want the aces. I want those fighter pilots, right? those
Yeah.
trauma surgeons.
I want Top Gun.
Yeah, there you go. So we created a social media, just a video,
Uh-huh.
and it showed. So we had. Let me kind of back up a little bit. In our business, we met every day. We had these things called 5-minute focuses, and
Okay.
those are very important to drive KPIs and to be focused on goals. And so it was Motivation Monday, Technical Tuesday,
Mhm.
Wisdom Wednesday, Thankful Thursday, and Feel Good Friday.
Ooh, I
And
love all of that.
of course, the text tried to turn it into Freaky Friday, and I said, "When you clock out, you can get freaky, but while we're here, it's Feel Good Friday, right?"
I know. I love
So
any alliterations. I may adopt this, Chad.
go right ahead.
I
This
love it.
is what I do. This is dealer development, right? And
Uh-huh.
so we would meet every day, and gosh, I literally kind of went blank as to why we were going down that road.
Oh, we were talking about your
Attracting good
social
people.
media video
Yes,
that you
attracting
did.
good
Yeah.
people. So we had those days. So Feel Good Friday, I used to cook for my employees. We had a Blackstone grill out in the warehouse,
Uh-huh.
and I would get in there early, take care of my KPI responsibilities, update the board, and then go out and start cooking. And that's where I learned how to cook pancakens.
Oh,
You heard of pancakens?
no, I have
I
not.
hadn't either until one of my employees said, "Hey, boss, can you cook me pancakens?" Because I said I would do eggs, bacon, pancakes, however you wanted them. You tell me, I'll cook for you,
Okay.
as a thank you. And so what you do is you cook your bacon, make it
Uh,
nice and crispy, and then you break it up into pieces about like that, and you lay it on the grill, and then you pour the pancake batter on it. So it's
ooh.
bacon-infused pancakes.
And anything with bacon is good.
Oh, that's where I learned that. So
Ooh,
we
that
took a
sounds
big
really good.
we hired this.
Just one strip, 1 3-inch strip in your pancakes. Are they big pancakes or little pancakes? Like little?
Well, I would do like 3 pieces, and then
Uh-huh.
it's pretty good sized pancake with 3
Okay.
pieces, but just try it. Oh, it's the
I
best.
think I will. That sounds really good.
Once I cooked it for him, then everyone wanted it, and so that became I wasn't cooking like scrambled or hard or anything. It was just everyone wanted pancakes, so I just started cooking them.
So you had a repeatable process on Feel Good Friday.
That's right. Yes. And so we had a video done of me doing that. That we had this drone flying around me while I was cooking and all this
Uh-huh.
stuff. It's created this video for a very specific reason. We wanted to target certain technicians on their Facebook or on their social media platform.
Mhm.
And so one of the best techs I ever hired, my thinking is when are they on that? When are they going to be there? Right after work, when they go to the restroom, that kind of
Right.
thing. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, the day after we deployed that video and we targeted people that we were going for, this guy calls me and he says, "Do you really cook for your people on Friday?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I want to interview you." And of course, I was like, it took me
Wanna
off guard.
interview me. I love
Yeah,
it.
in my mind, I was like, "Well, I'm the owner of the business, and I think I would want to interview." I didn't say that though. I listened for a minute, and I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I really liked the video and the ad that you put together about not just being a number." And he was
Uh-huh.
working with a big company out of Arlington. Like he was happy. He's a great technician. And so that's how we targeted those good people. So that would be my advice is you got to be different. You can't be the same scrolling on Indeed, pays this much, has benefits. Everyone does.
Right.
What makes
Everybody
you
has those
special?
things. Right. That's the
Yeah.
base stuff. That's the baseline stuff, right? There's
Yeah.
something that is unique. I know I have a guy in Tennessee, amazing, growing, million more. I mean, he's growing 25%, 30% every year.
Sweet.
And he's a really strong Christian guy and he prays with his guys and they do
Oh,
some things that are just really different. And he's actually done a video on that, not for recruitment, but just part of his branding, part of what makes him different. And he is recruiting. He's recruiting really strong candidates as a result of that.
that's his
Um,
culture. That's
yeah, it's
great.
his culture. It's his culture. And he promotes what makes him different.
That's awesome.
He
Yeah.
lives it. And I love that. I
Well, quick.
love and we're finding that ads that don't look like ads do a lot better.
Yeah.
And video is doing really well engagement, and we're doing it with some recruitment stuff too. So I mean, you were on the forefront of that. You were cutting edge, Chad.
Well, I didn't realize I was. It was
You
just
were.
I was trying to solve problems. I want to update on that too because that the one specific tech I'm talking about,
Yeah.
he reached out to me this past November. It was like a few days after Thanksgiving, and I met with him and I signed his master's paperwork for him to go
Uh-huh.
take the test. And he now owns his own business, and
Wow.
he is a a very happy customer of Standard Supply. So in that,
Oh,
see
so
that?
you were really building your standard supply pipeline years ago.
Yes, it was a master plan.
I know, yeah, it's a little master plan. But I
That's
mean,
right.
I think, but that's just another great lesson is that, you know, what we're building now, like we may not see a return on that right this minute,
That's right.
but
Mhm.
we can, and I think that's really true with HVAC. Like I know you got to hit your numbers every month and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things I have to always remind people is 8 to 10 years between systems. Like you've got to keep your clients engaged. And like you don't want to like fall off the face of the earth and 8 and 10 years and they go, "Oh, we need a new system. Who do we call?" I don't know, like we
Yeah,
think they're remembering us, but they don't. So
yeah,
staying engaged and letting them know like here's what's going on at, X HVAC company, this is the stuff and staying in front of people on social media. It may not result in a call right then, but when they need the big sale, you're going to keep that customer and they're going to remember you
yeah. Brand
and you're
awareness.
going to recruit.
That's
So,
right. Always. Those never stop. Oh, that's another thing. You talked
yeah.
about, the money that we spend, the budgeting that we spend on advertising, right?
Mhm.
I'll ask these contractors all the time, "What's some of your biggest problems?" "Well, I can't find good people." "How much money are you spending to find them?" "Not very much." They don't really
Yeah.
think of it as that. And it's like, look, that's gotta be a part of your budget. You have to be.
Always be hiring.
That's
And
right.
yeah, my really smart guys, and the bigger guys, they understand that, and we run recruitment ads even when they're not recruiting.
Yep.
We're running stuff because it only takes, think people's lives can change in a day, and
Mhm.
you've got to be able to change, or your business is going to be in a problem. And you know what? Like I had somebody come to me and they said, "I got this hot shot social media person. She's a rock star," and I wasn't looking for a social media person. And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna interview her." And she was, and she is. And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna figure out how to do this." Because I had somebody really much wiser than me that said, "You are either gonna be understaffed or overstaffed. You will never be perfectly staffed." And
Yeah.
so I made
True.
a decision this past year that I wanted to be overstaffed because my anxiety level is so much better when I am overstaffed because if somebody
Mhm.
gets sick or whatever happens, I don't have to worry about do we have coverage. And
Yep.
so that's another reason to always be hiring,
Yeah, and apply that to the metric of your growth mindset, right? If you're a
right?
business that plans to grow, being overstaffed is the only way to do that.
That's
So,
right.
right? If you if
That's
you
right.
if you don't wanna grow, go ahead and be understaffed. You'll be okay there.
That's right, because you will not be ready. I know it is one of the questions that I'll ask when we're talking to folks. I'm like, what's your capacity for growth? If I bring you all these leads, are you going to be turning them away? Because that's going to be wasted money, and I want to be a good steward of your budget. So, I talk to my people, and they'll call me and say, "Okay, we're having to turn people away. Turn it down." And so we'll turn it down, and then we turn it back
Yeah,
up when weather gets nice.
yeah.
I'll tell you what. Now that I work with HVAC people, I feel guilty every time there's nice weather. I'm like, I
I
feel like I
know.
either need to be having extreme cold or
Yep,
like super duper hot, and that in between, I'm like, "Oh, no. Oh, no. My clients are suffering. We need some
yeah.
we need some heat."
That's what they're praying for. -5 or 105. That's
I
it.
know
Nothing
it.
in
Nothing
between.
in between. I don't
That's
like
right.
those calls.
Yep.
Um, Let me see. Gosh, we've talked about so many things, and we didn't talk as much and we talked a little bit about, like, the supply and distribution side of the industry, but I'd like
Mhm,
to know, you've got such a handle on both sides of it. And I know that I mean, I can tell you're a thinker. What do you think's going to change in the next, this is kind of off schedule, off topic from
mhm,
what I told you about, but in the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think
mhm.
it's going to look like? How are things going to change? Are our businesses ready?
Yeah, man, I talk about this all the time in my classes. I truly believe the next decade will be the most lucrative decade in my life in the HVAC industry. I believe that wholeheartedly.
And tell
Uh,
me why.
well, we gone through refrigerant changes, right?
Mhm.
We now have AI. Ginseng Wang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA, has talked about the shortages that we're going to have in the trades to the point that Harvard has pledged $500 million for trade schools. I mean, can you
Really?
imagine?
I
Yeah,
did
you're
not
gonna
know
have a
that.
technician walk in and hand you a Harvard certificate for air conditioning. They're gonna see that.
Wow.
Walmart has the what do they call it? The A2T program, which is associate to tech. So they're starting to build technicians. Home Depot has jumped on board. All of these giant companies are developing these technical personnel for the trades because of the explosive need that we have for it. So absolutely, you're going to see the most lucrative 10 to 15 years that we've seen in my lifetime, and I'm excited about it. That's why I'm doing this. I love it. I want to be a
I'm
part of it.
excited, but I don't know what I think about the Home Depots and the Walmarts getting into this because I'm really
Well,
about the mom and pop shops, the
well, no, no,
family-owned
no, and I didn't
businesses.
mean it from that aspect, right? Which is
Yeah.
a danger. That is the
Yeah.
Walmart thing is taking associates and training them to be technicians, not for home services, not now,
Oh.
but
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say I hadn't heard that. So,
yeah, no, no,
um,
no. Yeah, not
okay.
over home services, but yeah, to your point, that is a concern, right? Those big giant companies do have the capital and Home Depot just purchased, a pretty good size supplier in the world in
Oh, I didn't
HVAC.
know that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Was it
making some
Standard
moves.
Supply?
Oh,
No.
no. No, no, no. Standard Supply is happily family-owned, private, no private equity to it. We're, very much on board with that, and we're also from the contracting side, I'm starting to hear and see a lot of the consumers are migrating back to those mom and pops away from these big private equity groups because of the way they're treated.
Yeah. We've been doing some new campaigns called Lean Into Local,
Mhm,
and, it's all about making the local family-owned business the hero of the community and focusing on other, you know, community-based businesses and
mhm,
promoting them and saying, "Hey, we're local. We're here to service you guys, and all of our money goes." We support local businesses, we support local sports, we support local schools,
mhm,
and so we want to, and so they'll give away a gift card to, the local bakery or the local restaurant, not the franchises or whatever, but the real local ones, and they highlight who those families are
mhm.
and it's just a really great way because you can only talk about HVAC to people so many ways, right?
Yeah,
So, but what it does is it reminds people that they're not private equity. And
yeah,
we're seeing a lot of response to that and a lot of
mhm,
growth. And
yeah,
so there's a lot of ways to position yourself in the community. But we were talking about like trends. Um, I do hear a lot of people that say, I will never sell. And they do sell.
yeah.
Is the money just so good out there?
Well, when we did, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, but it was also a plan we planned it. It was, late 2016, I guess, October of 2016, my wife and I, we were hanging out at our camper up at Lake Gray Roberts. I told you the fishing story, and
Yeah.
that's what the little getaway was. And
Nice.
uh, she brought to my realization, our kids are starting to get older and getting married, and so she had her eyes set on the grandbabies. That now we've got 4 grandbabies.
Oh, you're so lucky. I want some.
Oh, they're awesome. The
I
newest
want
one
baby
is
skin.
she'll be 2 weeks on Monday, so
Yeah.
brand new, and so my wife is a happily retired full-time Gigi, stay-at-home Gigi,
Uh-huh.
and that was her plan, so we met about it, and then in, June of 2017 so in that camper, that October 2016, we wrote out a 5-year scale and sale plan for
Wow.
Air Texas Residential, and so we did it on a napkin. It's kinda funny. I wish that I still had that
I
napkin,
know. I would love to, like, you should, yeah, it would have been great to like frame. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know who knows, right? So
Right.
we made the plan. I exited the education field in June of 2017 and we engaged in that. And so the Gettle Group was one of the first that approached us in October or so of 2021. And it just the multipliers weren't quite where we wanted them. And so we hung on and waited and in 2022 the multipliers really hit it. So, you
Yeah.
know, as you said, things change in a
Right.
heart, right? So some people that say they won't sell, something may happen in their life cycle
Well,
that
they
they
build an
choose to do
asset,
or
right? We sell our houses, we
Mhm.
sell our cars, we sell assets. And so,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and you never know what plan God has for you. And look, He brought you to
Mhm.
Standard Supply, and you're multiplying
Yeah.
your knowledge and your wisdom with a lot of people. So that's
Yeah.
been a great thing.
Yeah. And think about this on the selling side of things, right? if a business isn't planning to sell, but they go ahead and they start structuring in that way, how much
Yes.
better and healthier does that make their business?
Right. Right. I
Right?
mean, it sounds like you're putting a lot of those things in there. And you know what? I think God says plant many harvests and he says to be good stewards. And all the advice that you're giving people is doing that, whether it's for the next family generation, whether it's an employee that buys the business, or it could be private equity. But we
Yeah,
don't live forever.
that's
And
right.
I don't know that I'll ever stop working, but never say never. Right.
I
Or maybe it just changes. Your career changes to do something else. I absolutely love what you do, Chad. I bet you just love Mondays, getting up and helping people. I can
I
tell you do.
I am on fire. I love this job. I am so humbled by it. Um, I just, you're right. I get up every day. I'm excited to be a part of this. I'm just, like I said, I'm humbled to be a part of this team. Standard Supply really stands on those core values. They're all about, or we are all about providing support and a relationship to our customers and our vendor partners. Right? We want to just build this and be a part of something great, and it's exciting to be a part of that every day. So yeah, love it.
So if you're in any of those states that Standard Supplies in, you need to be talking to these guys because it sounds like it's not about price, but it's about support and training. I
Yeah.
mean, if I had an HVAC business, I'd be calling you guys. Um,
Good. I'm doing my
yeah.
job then. I got you
Well,
sold.
so tell me if somebody did want to learn about Standard Supply, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I mean, you could go to our website, which would be SSD Standard Supply Distributing, so ssdhvac.com.
Okay.
Or, you could reach out to me if you want to, if you're a contractor in our area and want to, get in touch with me. I do it. Can give you my number, I guess, or my email. What should I do
We'll
there?
we'll wait. Let's let them find SSD. Let's make people work a little bit harder. But
Yeah,
we are gonna be, we'll put that out there and we'll put your name and we'll put the main office number. How about that?
yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Okay. Well, with all of that, I just want to thank you, Chad, again. I learned so much and really enjoyed talking with you. You've had a really incredible journey. You had a lot of really valuable advice. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Remember to subscribe for some of our other podcasts, getting insights, stories, and tips from the leaders in HVAC and home services. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring. We'll see you next time.